It is 7:02. Good evening and welcome. My name is Nat Welch, co-chair of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. today. This meeting is being recorded. Today's agenda was posted on the committee's page on the town website. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order of March 12, 2020, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting virtually to ensure public access to the deliberations of the meeting. The public may access this call through video conferencing or telephone as instructed in the agenda for tonight's meeting posted on the committee section of the town website. If you haven't already done so, please identify yourself on the screen. You can do this by clicking on the three dots at the top of the box containing your image and clicking on the rename feature and then put in your name. We ask that everyone keep their microphones muted to limit background noise and only unmute them when called upon. As you'll note in the posted agenda, members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions, provide public comments, and give feedback. We will also at certain times at the committee's deliberations ask for input from the public. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand so we can see it. We'll unmute. And then we ask you to identify yourself with a name and address for the record and limit your comment to 1 or 2 minutes if possible. All votes will be taken by roll call. In the event of any technical difficulties where Zoom becomes unavailable, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically be continued to the next BFRT AC committee meeting. And Marcia, just so people know, Marcia is our host, but I am co-host in case her internet breaks. Thank you, Marcia, for sharing that. For tonight's meeting, minutes will be taken by committee member Adrian Boardman. Excellently taken, if I may say. Thank you, Adrian, for again doing this. At this time, I'm going to ask committee members to indicate that they are present and confirm that their audio works. Richard Hollander.
Present.
John Soden.
Present.
Carol Steele.
Here.
Adrian Boardman.
Present.
Dorcas Miller. Not yet. She may be joining us. And myself, Nat Welch. With these 5 members, we have a quorum and the meeting will continue. Our next agenda item is to approve the minutes from 2 meetings that have occurred in the last 6 weeks. One on April 22nd, which was a special meeting to discuss the last half mile, and the May 6th regular meeting. Are there any edits or suggestions that the members of the committee would like to add to the April 22nd minutes? Okay, can I have a motion to, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting on April 22nd, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. A roll call to approve the minutes. Adrian?
Approve.
Richard?
Aye.
Dorcas? Not here yet. John Soden?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And I, Nat Welch, vote to approve. The minutes from April 22nd are approved and will be posted on the town website. The next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the May 6th meeting. Are there any changes or edits that the committee members would like to suggest to that those minutes? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 6th, 2021?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. A quick roll call. Adrian?
Approve.
Richard?
Aye.
John? Soden?
Aye.
Carol Steele?
Aye.
Nat Welch, I approve. The minutes are approved and will be posted. Thank you. I'd like to invite Marcia Rasmussen, Director of Planning and Land Management, to provide her usual excellent monthly update. Marcia, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Nat. Phase 2B, the construction continues and contractors and subs have been working on the bridge supports guardrail installation, chain link fencing along the police horse barn pasture, and installing loam and seed. And the next construction meeting is expected to be on June 17th. Phase 2C updates. I'm going to let you, Nat, talk about the trail counts that were conducted on May 7th, the week of May 17th.
Yep.
The Transportation Advisory Committee met on May 12th and discussed additional signage and pavement markings that would be located around Junction Park in West Concord to inform cyclists and others on wheels to walk their bikes or wheels through Junction Park, and Concord Public Works is responsible for following up on that. I sent an email today and did not get an update, so I can't give you an update on that work, but next meeting I will have that. And then co-chair Richard Follander attended the Commission on Disability meeting on May 20th, hearing their concerns regarding rest stops along the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, and some concerns about the end of the parking area at the end of the commuter parking lot facility right before Neshoba Brook Bridge. And when I sent out my agenda memo notes, I heard from the designer. Excuse me, there's someone waiting in the waiting room. Okay. I heard from the designer who said that the contractor misinterpreted their design detail, and it was intended to be a walkway. So I will need to work with Concord Public Works engineering staff to redesign that section. We do have a small sum of money that should be hopefully be appropriated at the June 13th annual town meeting. That might cover the majority of the cost of that renovation. It's an oversight. No one caught it. We had, Mass DOT inspectors on the job. We had the contractor on the job. We had the design consultant on the job and town staff on the job, and no one caught that detail. So my apologies to all involved, especially the Commission on Disability, and we'll get that taken care of. The last half mile of phase 2C, the 75% design plans were submitted to Sudbury's designer, who incorporated everything and submitted all the documents on May 12th. And then the notice of intent was filed with the Natural Resources Commission. The project was initially expected to be heard at last night's NRC meeting. Unfortunately, the Concord Journal failed to publish the legal notice. So this item has been continued to June 16th, when we'll hear the entire project. And then the Community Connections Grant, I submitted the contract documents with the town manager's signature to the state in early May. I followed up earlier this week. They expect to give me authorization soon to order the equipment. I asked if there would be an opportunity to extend the grant. Everything was supposed to be in and installed by the end of September. Given the delay with the state and the contracting piece of it, they said once I've ordered the equipment and get a firm delivery date, they will consider an extension. So I'm feeling very good about that. And that's my report.
Committee members, any questions?
I have a question about that, the curbing at the parking lot. Is that going to be just removed, or will there be bollards put up in a partial walkway, or do you have a plan for that?
I'm going to have, I don't have a final design for that, Richard. I will work with Concord Public Works and we will assess whether it's necessary to add bollards or not.
Okay.
Some of the concern has been that if the path is too wide, vehicles, cars might think it's appropriate to
We
go
had
down
that
there.
problem on Williams Road. Right? Yeah,
I'm sorry?
we had that problems near Williams Road. Somebody
Yes.
started driving down
Yes.
the trail.
So we want to define the area, and we'll assess that.
Great. Now, will you notify the folks at the Disabilities Commission that this is underway, or you have
will.
already done that?
I have not yet. I just learned it today
Okay.
because the memo didn't go out until yesterday. And so when the
Right.
designer read the document and realized there was an issue, he notified me right away.
Okay.
So I can relay that information, and I will relay that.
Other committee members, do you have any questions? Marcia, could I just ask you about the bridge? Is there any update on the completion date for the bridge? Is it still spring next year?
It's the summer of next year,
Summer of next year? Okay. I'm
June or
just trying to-
July, and I'm
I'm
not.
trying to
I
be
don't wanna-
positive. Get it done early.
You're hopeful. Hope springs eternal.
Hope springs eternal. Okay. And then the viaduct I noticed over there was flooded. Are they working through that issue with the animal path underneath?
Mhm.
'Cause it-
No work is being done. They're waiting for the groundwater to subside before they complete that.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Questions from the public regarding the town report? You raise your hand if you have a question, or not, we shall move on. Okay.
Thank you, Marcia.
Oh, yes, Richard?
I just said thank you,
Oh, thank you.
Marcia, for the report.
Okay. Thank you, Marcia. Yes. Thank you for remembering that, Richard. We do try and acknowledge the work of everybody on the town staff who keeps our thing looking beautiful and safe. Next item on the agenda is review of the trail counting event. First, the committee would like to thank everybody who volunteered, and a special thanks to those who volunteered for more than one slot. And some people whose names I recognize who are attending this meeting, so thank you for taking the time to do your 2-hour slot. We had a very successful trail count in the sense that over 5 days and 3 different locations, we had all 27 separate time slots filled. People showed up, they did their counts. I think most people have sent in their counts. If you haven't, you still have time. Okay, so I'm sorry, just got interrupted for a second. Just an administrative thing. Dorcas Miller has arrived. Dorcas, could you just confirm that you are here? I know you're listening. If you could unmute. Okay, well, she's not, oh, she's just sending me a text. Okay, so I'll keep going until I hear from her. The next trail count is going to be in October. And we hope to do the same, have the same kind of a turnout. Are there any questions from the committee on the count? You're muted, Carol.
I'm curious just what people have to say about it. I was surprised on Sunday down at the bridge. Oh gosh, by Neshoba Brook. That there were, a few people that came, but the usage on a Sunday wasn't, it wasn't a pile of people, and it was a very, very beautiful day. So, I think for each time slot, there was only maybe four people, or 3 or 4, which surprised me.
We will the full numbers. I know that at the other side on Sunday, it was very busy. In fact, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But there was a lot of variability. Richard, you did a couple of sessions.
Yeah, I did a couple at the bridge and then one at Powder Mill. I think it was funny, like one day, a Tuesday, it was twice as many people as the next day I did it, and it was the same time. So it's sort of like, it's hard to figure, and the weather was basically the same as well. So I think it's, and there were a lot of dogs one time and not so many the next. So that might be part of it. The dog walkers were all out. And I thought it was, for me personally, I found it really nice just to be there and see the people enjoying the trail. I mean, it was really fun. I did think that perhaps we could consider, providing like T-shirts or something for people who are counting. On one hand, you don't want to draw attention to, might change people's behavior, but on the other hand, you might be able to engage some people in conversation about the trail as well. So something I think we could think about in the future. And it would then be a little benefit for those who do it. So
Yeah. That's a good
I
suggestion.
like that the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail dragonfly is a nice image.
If we're allowed to use it, we'll have to find out who has the copyright of that, but I also agree. Yeah, I was at Powder Mill for one of the sessions and actually met some folks from Stone Roots. So it was nice to actually see people in 3 dimensions as opposed to just on a Zoom call. So that was.
Oh, and I should say that the town manager, Stephen Crane, was on the Powder Mill Trail on Saturday.
Yeah. Alan, I'm sorry, Alan, we have 2 hands up. Alan, you had a comment? You're muted, I'm sorry.
Yes, Stephen Crane passed by my station, which was right at Johnson Park. And so we engaged with a great conversation with him about the value of the rail trail and the public parks in Concord. Can I continue? I just don't want to go.
Is this about the count, Alan?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you take a minute and
So I was, not only did I participate in the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail count, which was amazing, I also did another count at Junction Park, and that was about what was the percentage of people that rode through versus dismounted. And I have to say, sadly, 3/4 of people rode through without dismounting. 1/3 of people actually dismounted. So I think that how can I say this? The onus is on us to figure out how do we get people to, how do we get signs to be effective in terms of getting folks to dismount and walk. So I would say in my experience, that didn't work. But I would love to work with the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail in terms of defining another method for measurement that we all can get behind, that, can say, what is the right measurement for people who ride through versus dismount, those folks who ride right across the trail to the railroad track versus those who follow along the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. So I would love to work with you guys in terms of defining a survey that accomplishes those goals.
Ellen, thank you for your comments and ideas. And I think right now the Transportation Advisory Committee is kind of owning what happens in Junction Park. So I think it'd be really good to share your experience with them. And I like the idea that you volunteered to do the mount to dismount count. So thank you for doing that.
Right. So just, I guess I would say that I just hope that, I'm sorry. Yes, I hope that the trail committee is, that we can work together. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, we will look forward to that. Deborah Edelman, do you have any comment on the count?
Yeah, thank you. And this is my first meeting. I've just moved to Concord, so it's a pleasure to be with all of you.
Welcome. Could you just say your name and address so we can capture it?
Sure. My name is Deborah Adelman, and I live at 1 Abbott Lane, and that's here in Concord.
Welcome to Concord.
Thank you. So I just have really 2 questions / comments. The first is, and I'm happy to read the information if it's available. Once the count data is in, do we do some sort of benchmarking? For example, do we, look at other similar or comparable parts of rail trails and start to ask questions and query the data? That's my first question. And my second is similar. I was on a ride yesterday and I was shocked at how many e-bikes there were. I thought it was just a rail trail ride. And so my second question is, is there a way when we do the count, so and maybe you already did, that we can say, oh, that's an e-bike and that's sorry, that's just a non-e-bike.
Let's not make people feel who don't have e-bikes feel uncomfortable that they don't have e-bikes, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Or
the
vice
non,
versa.
yeah, exactly. So those are my questions.
Okay. So excellent questions. With regard to the first one, we haven't got the data back yet. And I will speak for myself that I'm a bit of a data junkie, so I don't know how many ways I want to manipulate the data, but we will report it to the committee. And I think we're also going to take some advice from the MPO that is the sponsor of the overall count. I hope to have one of them come in and kind of explain what they found. And then I think it's up to the committee and the public to say, what do we want to do with it? But this is really our first benchmark for the data. And then with regard to the e-bike question, I think we're a little later on, we're going to have a discussion about e-bikes. So I'd like to hold off till then, if you don't mind. Okay. Yes, Carol. I'm sorry. Ellen Crockenbush, you had another question? Please unmute. You're still muted.
I'm sorry about my not muting, unmuting. I would love in general to have a conversation about what the metrics are. Whether, what's the metrics in terms of asserting what the right, I don't know. I just think we're like getting a little bit, I'm gonna say this. I think that whether it's e-bikes or whether it's a bunch of other things, I think we should really think hard about what is the metric of the population that we want to have in our town, in Junction Park, and what is the behavior we want in our town, and not necessarily be influenced by, I don't know, I love other towns, but I think that we should think hard about our town.
Excellent. Very good point. Thank you very much for raising it.
Love to work with the committee to do just that. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other committee member comments on the count before we move to the second half of the count conversation?
I just wanted to tell you my favorite pair that came to the trail was a grandmotherly looking woman with white hair on a electric wheelchair. And she was whizzing along with some teenage grandson or in his track uniform, and they were whizzing down the trail together. And I thought that was pretty neat.
Good. Okay. The second half of the count discussion relates to one of the counters who had Sunday afternoon from 12 to 2 at Powder Mill Road, and he counted a significant number of walkers and bikers. But he sent a note that he specifically counted 37 people who used the tunnel, and of which 24 had beach gear, which he listed as towels, coolers, floats, foam, swimsuits, etc., which is 65% of the count. So I did forward the email he sent to me to the select board, just so that they were, and I think Marcia, I copied you on it too. And I should actually send it to the committee, which I apologize I did not do. But it started me thinking about the ecological sensitivity of the area and considering the abutters concerns. It seems important to continue to get information about people using the tunnel to access the pond area. And I'm sure not all users are intending to swim. And it seems that we could at least start to track traffic through the tunnel in a way that helps the town and us to get a sense of usage of the tunnel for people going to and from that area. Again, not everyone's going to the pond, but so I just wanted to throw that in front of the committee and see if committee members had any comments or thoughts, and then I'll also open it up to the public just to share your thinking. Any committee member comments or thoughts on this?
Nat, I know in the past we've talked about the signage that's going to be needed in that area once it's fully paved and once that last half mile is complete. I'm
Mhm.
trying to like close my eyes and picture what's there now. Is there any signage that's helping to dissuade or educate that that's not the proper use and access? I know
I
it's an
don't
important
think so.
consideration that we need to make going forward, and not that signage is going to fix everything, as we've seen from the Junction Park, discussion, but I'm just trying to recall what's there or not there right now.
I don't recall much being there. There's some sign that says end of the trail and some information about, who can use the trail.
Yeah.
But there's nothing actually when you get to the tunnel to do it. Steve, I see you. I'll call on you in a second. I just want the committee to have a chance to talk through it. And Greg, I see you also. Other thoughts from the committee? Comments?
Well, we don't know where those folks are headed. I mean,
Right.
they presumably are going to the Cove.
Right.
But we don't know that for sure, obviously.
And given that I think the sensitivity and concerns of the abutters, it feels like something that we should be thinking.
And it seems like that must be fairly local people if they're on foot with gear, unless they're parking someplace nearby.
Right, that's interesting point. And I didn't get a sense of how many might be on bikes versus how many were just walking. So I think that's a good question to get at. And it was Sunday afternoon, 12 to 2 on a sunny day. Okay, any other committee member questions before I open it up to public questions? I'm going to start with Steve. You were the first hand I saw, and then Greg, and then Ellen. Steve, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Hi, Steve Wright, 173 Stone Root Lane. I wanted to respond to that question because it's something that I've been looking at this past week, and I looked at the plans that were submitted with the notice of intent. And I didn't see, I know we had talked about it on a prior meeting about the need for signage. And I noticed that between Powder Mill and Williams Road, there is some metal signage that looks like it was provided in connection with the construction. Currently, there's obviously no signage on the last half mile. And I didn't see any signage in the plan except for the scenic overlook type signage. I didn't see anything about signs on the gate for the abutters.
Mhm.
I'm a member of the trust, so I down at the trust property occasionally, and we do have some signs that are up there right now, but they're in the nature of laminated 8.5 by 11 signs attached to trees. They're not in the nature of professional looking part of the rail trail apparatus, if you will. So I certainly, from my perspective, and not necessarily speaking on behalf of everybody else, but I think I'd greatly appreciate there being some signs that indicate that that it's private property, no trespassing, that kind of thing, which I've seen again between Powder Mill and Williams. There's at least one I know at that one opening. And I can tell you the committee from experience, being down, taking my daughters down swimming, we've already seen people come down to the trust's beach, and obviously the usage of the cove. I think it was as many people as I've ever seen down there. Yeah. During our little nice spell of weather. So obviously it's been getting a lot of usage, which could be problematic.
Right. Thank you for the comments, Greg.
Hi, yes, Greg Mueller, 95 Stone Root Lane. And just regarding the signage, to play off Steve, but also give a bit of historical context. I also am a trustee of the Old Pickard Farm Trust 2. Historically, over the years, we have had signage, as Steve described, laminated, no trespassing or private property signs that are taken down with, I would say, some regularity. In fact, they probably come down as fast as they go up. So the idea of, I'll just sort of leave it with that's been true for a long time. The assumption around it must be locals because they walked down. I think I would sort of challenge that in that there's people that are dropped off. There's a couple parking spots up on Powder Mill. They're not official. Well, they're not official, but there's not no parking signs. So you'll see 2-3 cars there pretty regularly on Powder Mill, and then also just the Willard School parking lot. And I think this has been stated in other public events and forums around this, is that if you Google, just swimming, in fact, I think they're, again, anecdotally, swimming spots or best swimming spots, White Pond had been coming up as an alternative to Walden Pond when Walden Pond gets overused or the parking lots get closed. So yeah, I would really challenge that this is, hey, just a couple folks from neighboring streets that are casually walking or have found themselves down there with coolers. It certainly could be, but and I think also the assumption around, again, to play off Steve a little bit, the assumption around everyone's heading to the Cove. Anecdotally, as Steve just mentioned, they're ending up on that Trust Beach. There's some percentage, and as I've tried to monitor, with some regularity, and I guess at some point now I'll start documenting it more formally, but we see people on that beach that are not members of the trust. It's the first point of water connection from the pond, so that's going to be the first place.
Thank you, Greg. I just want to make sure that we don't turn this into a long discussion about signing or that. I just want to make people aware that we are seeing, we did record this, and the committee is interested in thinking about, in the context of where it has a charge, which is along the trail right of way.
Yep.
What can we do to be creative? And there is still a lot to be done with the 75%, 100% design plan. So there's more to come here. But I just wanted to make sure that abutters know that we're thinking about this issue.
No, sure. And also want to say thank you to the counters. It was incredibly helpful.
Thank you. And Greg, it was nice meeting you.
As a counter.
So next, Ellen Quackenbush, and then Ellen Glendon.
Yeah, so thank you. It's a great pleasure of actually counting for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. I don't know, a week ago Sunday, but and also I counted the following Sunday for Junction Park in terms of those bicyclists that mounted versus dismounted along the park. And this is about safety. And so I'm just asking the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail to work with us, work with me and Dory Kehoe to find a way to measure what is the safety metric for Junction Park. This is an area that is frequented by senior citizens of Concord Park as they work from their assisted living into the West Concord Pharmacy and a lot of other areas. I think that this park is very easily minimized in terms of the importance of the safety of those people who are walkers.
Yeah.
Either walkers in terms of wheelchairs, walkers in terms of senior citizens. And I would really love to work with the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail in terms of how do we measure that citizen, the compliance. And I did this, one Sunday, and I gotta say to you guys, 67% of people rode through the park.
So Ellen, can I just pause you, please? We've moved from that. I think the Transportation Advisory Committee has ownership. We're more than happy to work with you.
Oh, that's fine.
When the topic comes up again, we'll be open to having this conversation, but I'd like to keep focused on the topic at hand, which is.
Can you re-explain can you please re-explain that to me? I guess I'm not quite understanding your role versus the other.
Oh, we along with a number of other committees sent support for having the town do something about Junction Park. We are an advisory committee, so we advised. We are now standing by and waiting for the town to do what they need to do to address it. We're more than happy to have a conversation later about counting. But right now, it's not really in our hands. It really belongs to the town and the Transportation Advisory Committee, and we have strongly urged the town to deal with it. So I'm not saying we don't agree. I'm just saying that right now the topic is we've moved on from this topic. It's not on our on our agenda for now. But next month, after we hear what the Transportation Advisory Committee does, we'd be happy to have a further conversation.
I would love to have an opportunity to talk to you guys.
Okay.
About
Thank
the
you.
topic.
Thank you very much. Okay. Ellen Glendon.
Okay. Hi, Ellen Glendon, 64 Stone Root Lane. I am a member of the Old Picard Farms Trust too,
Yep.
and considered an abutter of the of White Pond because of our land associations. So I just wanted to follow up on the counting, and maybe this has been said before, but I have noticed specifically a number of cars this past weeks, maybe at least one every day, that has gone from the Willard, from Sudbury Road, passing the culvert and parking on Powder Mill just beyond the culvert. So that is where the last no parking sign is. And so people are driving past all the no parking and parking on Powder Mill in the first available spot. And as I say, this past week, it's been at least one a day. So however they're coming, there is sometimes bike racks on the back. And sometimes I saw the other day, somebody bringing 2 little kids. So again, this idea of people continuing through the culvert that they're walking is not necessarily accurate.
You mean that they're local? The point that they're not necessarily local is what
Right. They're not necessarily local. And the other issue is where is there a no parking sign on Powder Mill, and people are passing all the no parking signs and parking just beyond it.
Okay.
And also on the plan, I noted that I saw some descriptions of the 75% plan. I noted that there are descriptions for signage, but there is no signage noted on the plan. And I just didn't want that to be an oversight that's discovered at a later point in time.
Okay. So noted. I don't think the committee has any jurisdiction on the parking on the roadside. I think that's probably Marcia. Who would you recommend they talk to?
There is a lot of work that has to be done to have a no parking sign installed. All of those signs on Powder Mill Road were put up by the neighborhood. They are not part of the town's regulations. So I think they need to start with Public Works and the traffic management group. And that would be the town engineer and the Public Works director and the police chief.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Marcia. Jim Coutre, thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thanks, Nat. And thanks for the folks who have participated in that count and the like. What's very disturbing to me is all of a sudden we're talking about e-bikes. There's no such thing. There are e-motorized bikes, and motorized bikes and motorized vehicles are not allowed on the rail trail. And that's a long-standing policy that was affected many years ago because of the danger and safety issues with young children, as well as mobility impaired people on the rail trail. So I was rather surprised and all of a sudden disappointed that somebody thought electric motorbikes are allowed.
So Jim, we're going to cover e-bikes towards the latter part of the discussion. So could I reserve your time for then?
Sure.
Great. Okay.
Thanks, Nat.
Thank you. Any other comments? I think the one of the reasons to bring it up was to think about what the just for people to be aware that this is an issue. We're thinking about it, and there may be some is there some way we can kind of track how many people are coming in and using the area? I think I'd like to defer this conversation to our next meeting. Maybe we can have some ideas about ways to approach it, but I just wanted to bring that up as part of the count process that had been uncovered, and we're not ignorant of the issue in the neighborhood. Any next item are committee liaison reports. Let's see, I think Richard, were you going to talk about
Yeah, I have
disability?
a couple of things. One is that, again, the Transportation Advisory Committee, as I mentioned, is setting up I think I mentioned this before, a bike subcommittee. And the expectation is that either someone from this committee will be a part of that subcommittee or at least liaison with that subcommittee. It hasn't been set up yet, probably around 7 members. Also in that regard, have been communication with the select board in regard to the reformatory branch. So, information we sent a few months ago. Again, that's being referred at this point to the Transportation Advisory Committee, who was putting it on their agenda for discussion. So, and then the Disability Committee, as I said, was Marcia's already addressed the issues that they raised during that meeting. One other thing I want to mention is there was you may be aware that a person, a former physician at the prison, is interested in having some material, kind of similar kind of acknowledgement of the prison cemetery, as well as the prison itself and the history of the prison along the trail. And we've had a couple of meetings, and Marcia has suggested some spaces near the prison that might work. And so Patricia Ruiz, who is the person, is going to be making a presentation at the Historic Commission, not the Historic Districts Commission, the Historical Commission, which I connected her with on June 10th. Unfortunately, I can't attend that meeting. So if anyone else on the board is interested in attending to see and I think she's going to be preparing a presentation, I can, connect you with the, the Zoom link for that committee meeting. I think there's a lot of potential for another interesting, as I've said before, and feel it, and again on the trail, just reading the history of that area is really fascinating, and this will be I think a really meaningful addition to it, and touches on issues far beyond the rail trail, but it's interesting how the rails have played such a vital role in the prison life in many ways as well. So if anybody in the committee interested in potentially attending that meeting,
June 10th.
If not, we'll get caught up. So I don't know if
I'm
Marcia.
happy to volunteer. Sorry.
Richard, I think that meeting would also be recorded, and I do regularly attend those meetings. So
Okay. Great.
You can give an update.
everyone is welcome.
Okay.
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Next item on the agenda. Any other liaison reports? I'm sorry. Actually, there is one, which was the chairs meeting. Two things I will bring from that. One is that town meeting is coming up. So we'd like to encourage everyone to attend. It's going to be outdoors, and it's going to be a great time. There's lots of interesting topics to cover. So the committee, I personally would hope a lot of folks who are attending this meeting can actually attend town meeting. It's an important part of our democratic process.
I'll add that last year's meeting, which is being run in the same format this year, is pretty quick. If you're familiar with going to town meeting, it can be a long haul.
Yeah,
the new method, and I'm advocating they take the new method be implemented for all town meetings from now on. Lengthy presentations are not made. There's room for debate. There's plenty of time for debate, but it definitely, I felt, was a pretty good process on a hot day on a synthetic field.
And that is Sunday afternoon, June 13th, starting at 1 p.m.
Yes.
With a rain date of Monday at 5.
As they say, please be there or be square. The next item on the agenda is last month we had a presentation from the middle school building committee. The committee asked Adrian to draft a letter to the middle school building committee. That letter was drafted, copies were sent to committee members. I just want to know if anybody has any questions or comments or edits that they suggest. And I will wait. Just for everyone's understanding, we thank them for their time. And the emphasis of the note of the letter to the committee is please consider how to build a link between the building site and the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. There are enterprising kids today who use it, who do it through the dark, but we'd like to suggest they consider an accessible path between the building and the rail trail.
Thank you, Adrian, for that letter, and I move we send it.
I second that. And do we have a roll call vote? Let's see, Adrian, you're going to go first.
Aye.
Okay, Richard?
Aye.
Dorcas, can you hear us or unmute?
Yes, hi. Aye.
And that's an aye for the letter. John?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And I myself say aye, and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And thank you, Adrian. The next item, which has come up a couple of times, come up a couple of times, are e-bikes. And we are getting questions about e-bikes. I'd like to thank Barbara Pike for bringing this up. I think I'd like to thank Barbara Pike for bringing this up, but it certainly is becoming a topic as Jim has mentioned. And the committee, I think the committee first have a few minutes of discussion about it. This is a complicated problem that I think involves a lot of layers of government and regulations. And what I'd like to do is to see if we could get a member who'd be willing to take on the task of understanding the scope of the issue, what current policy is, kind of what the regulations are, and where it's going, and then maybe in a future meeting make a presentation so that everyone can kind of hear where we are. That's a thought. But first, let's have a discussion among the committee about e-bikes and get some input from public. Anybody in the committee want to dive in? Climb aboard?
I guess I'll start again. There are going to be e-bikes on the trail. You know, that's an inevitability. So I think we need to understand what's happening at federal, state, and then trail by trail situation. Concord cannot effectively implement a ban on e-bikes when Acton doesn't, for example, or any rail trail ban it, but then the neighboring rail trail looks exactly the same, and then people use it, can use an e-bike on that one but not on the other one. So maybe, I don't know if there's current Massachusetts regulations, federal regulations on e-bikes that are not considered mobility assisting devices. There's legislation I know related to e-bikes on the roadways in terms of determining how they can be regulated. Legislation pending, but I don't know what that is. So I think the Mass Bike might know, that this Mass Bike, which is the statewide coalition for bicycling, might know things, as well as Bruce Freeman Rail Trail staff, etc. I think it would be good to get a comprehensive view of what's going on.
Other committee members or Marcia? You're muted.
I'm not a committee member, but when there was the uniformity committee looking at the full trail back in the mid 2000s, we did have this conversation about electric motorized bicycles. The regulations from the Federal Highway Administration have revised since that time, and I think so we need to really consider what the federal highway standards are, what the Mass DOT standards are, and what we are able to do at a local level before we say yay or nay to what this all means. Mobility assisted devices could include an e-bike. And so we also need to be careful of the Commission on Disabilities. So there are a lot of issues, and I think your suggestion that we do some research and put together sort of a talking paper might be really valuable.
We have other committee members, and then I'm going to open it up to public comment. Carol or John or Adrian or Dorcas. Okay. Barbara, I saw you up first.
Yeah, I'd just like to give a little background on e-bikes. There are actually 3 categories of e-bikes. The e-bike that people seem to be riding is called a low-powered pedal assist bicycle. And I understand they cost like $3,000, so not everybody's going to have one. It only works if you're pedaling, and it can go up to 20 miles an hour, which I think is, you know, a road rider could also ride 20 miles an hour. There are 2 other levels, one of which has a throttle, one of which can go up to 28 miles an hour. But it's the category or the level 1 that is of most interest. I understand that the Department of Conservation and Recreation is allowing all e-bikes on all DCR properties. So that could be kind of interesting if you're out in Great Brook. I contacted the Recreation Department in Acton, and they, without specifying the level of e-bike, I understand from Melissa Rear that Acton does allow e-bikes on the trail in Acton. So I definitely think it's something, they're here.
We're gonna have to
And
take
they're
it
not
up
going to
now.
go away.
Yeah.
So that needs to be recognized.
Thank you, Barbara. And thank you for your crosstown wisdom from the friends. Deborah, you had your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. I just, number one, I'm happy to help with any of the data gathering, if you will. I just quickly, while we were talking here, just did a Google search, and the Rails to Trails Conservancy have done an assessment. In Zoom, normally there's a way I can put an attachment to a link, but that option isn't here at the bottom, but anybody can look it up if you haven't already found it. I was just educated. Thank you for the speakers. And I think my primary concern is safety. And it's really just an awareness that people should have. If you have people that are going what they think is fast at 10 on a regular bike, and then an e-bike goes whizzing by, it just brings up some safety issues.
Yep.
So I welcome the analysis, and absolutely it's multifaceted.
Thank you, Deborah. Jim, you had made some comments earlier. I just want to ask you if you have any final comments before we move on from this topic. I'm sure you do.
I'm not going to comment a whole lot because I didn't see it on the agenda to begin with, and I would have prepared for it. However, we did make that determination, and an assumption that they should be allowed is not appropriate. I think there's a huge difference when we're talking about mobility impairment devices that allow people to appreciate the trail versus what we've seen today in the news where people were shot because of the vitriol reactions that they have when all of a sudden they're confronted by people that think they have a right for and not respectful of the rest of society. And that's the major concern that I have. It amounts to a serious safety potential because there will be feuds and disagreements about you whiz by, you almost ran over my kid, you almost ran over my dog, or whatever the case might be. And by the way, you cannot stop on a slippery trail very quickly.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. And we will have to take this matter up. I think the thought was, is there someone on the committee who'd like, Richard, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a question, Marcia. If somebody breaks the rules on the trail now, who enforces that?
Good question. I believe that it would have to be the police department. You know,
And is there a general law by which they could charge somebody and give them a ticket?
that I don't know.
Ask them?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that right now. I'll have to research that.
Okay.
I think, you know, and I think I totally agree with Jim that the fact that this is kind of there's a kind of a vacuum in terms of who enforces it if it's a problem. There isn't an authority who clearly has authority, so to speak. I don't think even.
Yeah.
And when I say that they're coming, I don't mean that we have to encourage them coming. We can discourage them coming, but you know, people will still do it. I mean, it's going to happen.
Okay.
And somebody could say, this is my disability vehicle, sort of like Marcia had indicated. But and again, all those issues are and even one of those is fairly complicated.
Complicated, yeah. I mean, I think this is an issue that may be beyond, you know, just our own committee. I mean, we certainly have the charge to advise the town, but I certainly feel not up to the task intellectually at this point to figure out all of the different components. So does it make sense to have, you know, a committee member sort of drive this, at least the thinking process? I'm looking for help on what to do about this in terms of the next step from the committee. Any thoughts? Certainly not. Okay.
We'll have the Transportation Advisory Committee do it.
Yeah, well, that's an idea. Marcia,
Well, I'm thinking the first step might be to for me to contact the police chief and talk through this issue of enforcement for starters, and then to begin to do some of the research of, on the other issues.
Okay.
And so I can put together sort of like a white paper providing you with some background information, and then that might lead to some additional questions, which you can then follow up on.
Okay, I think
Yeah,
that sounds
I
good.
am interested in the current enforcement
Yeah.
procedure, because that would lead us into any other enforcement.
It may be that, you know, some regulations might need to be adopted, and so in order for the police to be able to enforce them. And that's the question that I don't have an answer for right now. And I do need to consult with the chief.
And I, not speaking for the committee, but I certainly, as a member of the committee, agree with Jim on not creating unsafe situations for any number of reasons. So I think we're all on that same page. I think the public should be comfortable that we are. I think it makes sense to have the town start the process, since it's a regulatory, and there may be some other issues related to it. I would also ask Barbara if the Friends have done any work in this, if they could share that with Marcia, if they have any thinking. You know, if you know anything that might be helpful to Marcia's look at it, that would be great if you could share it. So, Jim, did you raise your hand again?
I did indeed, yes. I think that we also ought not to assume just because a neighbor to our trail says, oh, it's okay, that they've really thought it through. And so therefore, I think that part of what you're looking at and suggesting is a more in-depth view, and take a look at the safety. And did it cause fisticuffs? Did it cause people feeling threatened? Because those are very legitimate concerns for the safety of the trail.
Yes.
Thanks,
Absolutely. No, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Greg, you raised your hand.
Yes, I almost hate myself for suggesting this, but what about speed limits?
Right. Wow. So
There's the speed limit.
I think they are on the trail already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
15.
15 is the.
There you go.
Right, but as Richard so carefully pointed out, if there's no one there to enforce it, then,
Did you hear the tree fall?
Right, did you hear the tree fall? Barbara, you raised your hand again?
Yeah, I did. I don't believe there's a speed limit on the trail. We talked about it with the uniformity committee, but we realized that there wasn't going to be anyone to enforce it. And there can be issues when, you know, heavy hitter cyclists are doing their big training on the trail. I understand that if they're going, you know, 20, 25 miles, that is an issue, but e-bikes don't generally go that fast. And my actual question is, who in Concord makes the rules? I mean, we sort of inherited the rules from the Uniformity Committee, but who says?
Marcia, who makes the rules in Concord?
The right-of-ways is the purview of the select board. The recommendations come from the Public Works, Engineering Division, and the Police Department. And there are the regulations about bicycle usage on streets, on sidewalks, parking, everything is in that document. And it is the
Okay.
select board that passes them.
Okay, so legally, the select board owns the right of way, or maybe that's not the right term, but essentially they set the rules.
They have the authority, yes.
They have the authority, right? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you all for, speaking of the select board, our select woman Carrie Ackerman, please.
Well, I have a question about the town rules versus the state rules. I think I heard a few minutes ago that DCR has allowed e-bikes. Now, if the state has paid for a lot of the construction of the rail trail, how much does the town get to decide the rules, and how much do we have to do what the state says with e-bikes or with any of this?
Terry, that's why I need to consult with Mass DOT and Federal Highway.
Great.
I don't have an
Thank
answer tonight.
Sure.
I do know that the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee has no authority except to advise, but we will do a very good job of advising when asked.
Yes.
So thank you. I'd like to move to our next item on the agenda, which is actually not on the agenda, but it's part of member things. Carol Steele has been a member of the committee for at least 2.5 years. And due to the appointment policy of the town, her membership will be coming to an end on June 30th. And I personally want to thank Carol for her work and for her insights. And she joked with me recently that her role on the committee was to ensure a quorum. And I say yes, and you've done much more than that, Carol. So I really appreciate the time and that you have spent volunteering for the committee. And for the committee, I'd like to thank you for your service and hope that we see you on the trail at some point. Do you have do you have a quick retirement speech you want to give?
No, I've enjoyed being in on this wonderful project, and you guys are quite heroic to stick with it. If you can't find anybody, I'll fill in for whenever they can't be there.
When we need a quorum again. Okay, well, we'll have to get the select board to approve you for that purpose. But we'll definitely keep that in mind. Having said that, we're also actively looking for members in order to improve our work and increase the diversity of the committee. So if anybody here who's on the call would like to be considered for the committee, please let Richard or myself know. Or if you can't find our email addresses, Marcia is on the town website and she will direct you to us. Just be careful what you ask for, because we do work hard here and we have fun. Finally, the co-chairs have been informed that some members of the committee may not be available for the meeting scheduled on July 1st. And since we've traditionally canceled the August meeting due to the summer holidays, I'd like to ask the committee if they're okay if we think about maybe holding the July meeting a little bit later, day to be determined a little bit later. And of course, we would meet all open meeting law requirements for noticing, et cetera. But maybe push it back a little bit so the other members can be available. Any questions or comments from the committee on that? And Marcia, I don't think we need to have a vote on this. We're just talking an administrative piece. Is that correct?
We can probably do a doodle poll and find out who's available on what night and schedule from there. Yes.
Okay. And with sufficient public notice, of course.
Yes, that's absolutely.
Okay. Okay, public comment section. The floor is open to anybody. I believe someone is here to talk about or would like to talk about a story walk. But this is open time for anybody. And someone raised their hand, and that
Yeah.
would be Deborah.
Hi, yes, thank you. I'm Deborah Warneberg. I'm an Acton resident, but I'm the director of First Connections. And we provide free services to young families. And we provide some of those services in Concord. And we do story walks regularly. And a story walk, in case some of you are unfamiliar with that, is when you literally laminate pages of a book and put them out on a trail so that families can walk by them and kind of read the books as they go. The Boston Public Library currently has a very big exhibit of story walks throughout Boston, and we have been doing these over the years. And so with our collaborators recently, it was suggested that in order to bring this to West Concord, that maybe we would consider posting it on the rail trail in West Concord. And so before hearing all about the e-bikes, I thought that was a great idea because generally we have a lot of families with strollers and young children. And actually, I believe it was Early Intervention who suggested the rail trail because we've done it at places where it's on grass, which has been fine, but for children who maybe are wheelchair bound or, you know, just they thought that the paved rail trail might be a better, more accessible opportunity for people. So the last time we did this in the Acton Arboretum, we left it there over about 4 days. We have them prepared so that they could be left for 2 weeks. They are very, they don't penetrate the ground very much. They're very well received by the conservation lands and things like that. So we wanted to offer that opportunity and just get your feedback on that.
Okay, committee members, questions?
Yeah, I think the location of the rail trail is also ideal given the proximity to so many preschools and daycare centers, especially if you think about kind of the Junction Park area between Concord Children's Center and Carousel and, you know, a number of others. And so, yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea to kind of bring a different demographic of use perhaps for a couple of days to the trail and allow kids and young families to experience that.
Okay.
We do.
Can you hear me? Yeah, Dorcas,
Hi, Dorcas.
I feel that it's not the kind of thing I want to see on a rail trail, which is a rural experience where people kind of enjoying the woods. The story thing I think is a wonderful idea, but I don't think the rail trail is the right place.
Thank you, Dorcas. Other committee member comments? Carol?
I can't envision this. So do you have pictures of what I haven't seen any of these storyboards.
Yes,
particularly.
I could share my screen and show you that if you would like.
Yeah, well, I would, but I don't know if there's
I don't know if
time.
we're, Marcia, technically, are we? Oh, you're muted, sorry.
Sorry?
Marcia's muted.
She should be able to share her screen.
Okay, go ahead, Deborah.
I'll just share the correspondence that we sent, which has a picture of this.
Yeah. There we go.
Right
Success.
here is an example.
Yeah.
So they're typically done in nature. And the idea is kind of to get people outside and experiencing something together.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, the Boston Public Library has, if you look on their website, they have a little bit of information about it as well.
Carol, does that help you?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
John, Richard, any comments?
I checked with, we were approached from the Fowler branch about doing a similar idea. I spoke to Dory Keogh, who's the librarian there today. and they're still interested, but something would be slightly different in terms of more of a semi-permanent thing in Junction Park, maybe. So that's still in the works.
Okay.
I think this would be, and Dory viewed this as a compliment potentially to what they're doing. It didn't see it as a problem.
Right.
Having potentially different things going on. I think Marcia had expressed concern about people stopping along the trail and, willy-nilly or whatever, and then maybe having a safety problem.
Right. Right.
I don't know whether the bridge might be a spot for something to happen where you can be off the trail in effect.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of the safety issue and congestion also. Marcia, go ahead. You wanted to.
I'm just, you have some trail counts. I would look at your numbers over the Neshoba Brook Bridge.
Yeah.
Last year we had the Go Outdoors exhibit. I did not hear any concerns or issues with conflicts of that Go Outdoors exhibit. Now, if we were to limit the story walk to, say, the Neshoba Brook Bridge north to Commonwealth Ave, where there may not be as much use. Mm-hmm. You have the two parking lots, one at Commonwealth Ave, one at the commuter parking lot, that would allow families to get out of their vehicle and walk up and down that stretch. There's not a lot of shade except on the bridge, but that it would not take away from the natural experience that Dorcas was suggesting.
Right, because the prison walls are there. That's right.
Correct, and yet it could be a really dynamic experience. I would not want to do this in another year, but this year, without the bridge over Route 2 completed, might be an opportune time.
Yeah, Dorcas, what do you think about if we did it between Com Ave and the Neshoba Brook Bridge? Would that feel better for you?
I just don't like the whole idea. I hated the exhibit we had last year from the art people.
Somebody did like it after all.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was terrible. I just feel like that's not an appropriate place. Maybe having something in the, right around the parking lot in the field or something like that. But the rail trail really is supposed to be rural. It's supposed to be enjoying nature. I don't think we need any more signs, any more distractions or anything else. I think we just need the experience of being out there.
Okay. Thank you for the input. Other committee member comments? Otherwise, I'm going to open it up to
who decides what happens. Who we can recommend. Who
I think we recommend, right, Marcia, yeah. And then the town
select board.
Right.
Select
okay.
board will decide.
Okay. Okay. Good. Now that we have accountability and authority figured out, I'm going to open it up to the public. And I think, Deborah, your hand was up first. Deborah Elwood. I'm sorry. Sorry, Deborah Edelman.
That's
Deborah
okay. Thank you.
First, and then Deborah Edelman, and then
I
Mr.
think
Cooper.
there are 3 Deborahs on this call, which is interesting. So I can understand the confusion. Thank you. I don't have a comment on this, but I did want to have a comment and then a question. One is Greg Mueller was talking about how we do try to keep signs up, but they really are ripped down. And I can show you a photograph of one that was recently ripped down. And last year we were quite diligent about this because we had 2 separate rope swings erected going into the pond. And I actually came upon the kids using them. It was in relatively shallow water, and I stopped them, and I did not recognize them as neighborhood kids. And we immediately cut them down to protect everyone, and then immediately put up new signs. That's the one I took a picture of that was fairly recently taken down. Okay. So I think the need for permanent signage is a real one. So that's one thing. But of course, the other thing, the most important thing, is the fencing. And I would really love it if someone would walk me through the fencing from station 9 to 15. I'm not perfect at reading these maps. And I can see that there's different types of fencing. And I think a lot of us, a lot of the abutters and those or the trustees of Old Picard Farm Trust are a little confused. And so we would just be so grateful if you could just walk us through what the fencing is from 9 to 15.
Okay.
And I'm at 173 Stone Root Lane.
Thank you. So I'm going to leave it up to Marcia to determine a time frame for doing that. I think that makes sense to walk you through the map. So we will make a note to have a time when we can do that. So thank you.
I get, and so I'm sorry, I'm surprised. I thought this is where this kind of thing happened. So at the other meetings, they, this was sort of,
It does.
okay,
Yeah.
it felt kind of glossed over. And we've asked for a site walk and stuff, and we just want the information.
Right. So
And
we've
so just wondering where it happens.
So we've had 2 site walks. We've had 3 meetings on the fencing, and we will have more, just not tonight. So you can be assured that the committee is committed, as we are a committee, to working with the neighborhood, and we will do that. And I, for one, love maps. And once I'd be more than happy to spend 2 hours with you walking through it. But first, I have to read them and get caught up on it. And whatever I say is not necessarily right.
No,
But,
and I appreciate that. It's just,
okay, good.
I'd love the clarity.
Okay, glad to do that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Deborah
Deborah,
Edelman. Oh, I'm sorry, Richard, what?
Yeah, I was just going to say Deborah had a comment about the story walk, I think.
Yes, well, back to the story walk. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, and it's brief. So I am new to Concord, and I'm just trying to explore everything you have. And yesterday I went on a ride on the, I believe you call it Battle Road. And as I was listening to Deborah discuss this beautiful idea of a story walk or whatever, I apologize what you called it, that is the type of road that's not necessarily the same as what we are here discussing, the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, but that particular route would lend itself well because it has those natural stopping points already. So I just wanted to say, although I may not be officially in favor of using the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail for this notion of storytelling, and which is a great idea, perhaps there are other places in the community that would be well suited.
Thank you, Deborah. Jim, are you going to talk about storyboard, or are you going to cover another topic?
No, I wanted to just ask Marcia a question as to when we expect that we might get some kind of feedback from MassDOT on the 75% design relative to exactly what Deborah Elwood was asking. Just some kind of general knowledge, expectation of time to get some feedback.
I think.
The plans were just submitted May 12th. I don't know, when we went through this with the 75% design, I think it took up to 6 months to get all of the comments back because there's so many different agencies that need to provide their input. And I don't have an answer for you right now. I will check with Beth Sudmeyer in Sudbury, see if I can get an update from her on their expectations. But right now, it just got submitted, so I really don't have a good sense of when that might.
And Marcia,
I can understand that, and I certainly appreciate that. But I'm more interested in if all of a sudden the bottom falls out of this relative to fencing and protection and safety. That's when we'd like a heads up, not waiting 6 months. And that was the reason for the question. But I understand what you're saying, and certainly I've been there with you before on it.
Marcia, any comments? Nope.
No
Okay.
additional comment.
All right, good. Steve, do you have something to say about the storyboard? Because I'd like to finish off the story. Okay, I'll come back to you with other comments once we finish the storyboard conversation. Anybody else have a comment on the storyboard? Story walk, sorry.
I think the Marcia's suggestion is a good one as a location, and I understand what Dorcas is saying. At the same time, I think that to bring activity and more people to the trail is a good thing, and as long as it can be done safely, and I think it's a good thing to try. I don't know. I could move that we recommend that the town give permission to do it, so I could make that motion. I will make that motion, I guess.
You will make that motion. I will. Is there any, before let's see, do we
We
have
have
to
to
second
second
it?
it first before discussion.
Let's second it, and then I second it and discussion.
Trail between the Neshoba Brook Bridge
Any discussion from the committee
Yeah.
members?
and Commonwealth Ave, which is
Is,
basically
is someone saying,
behind the prison.
Somebody's in the distance talking. Somebody's mic is on.
is not
okay.
really bicyclists or
So the motion is to recommend that the town consider the story walk. This is a red letter day for me because this is the first time I think we have disagreement among committee members. So I appreciate that. And I value the differences. If there are no other, Dorcas, do you have any other comments you want to make, or anybody else?
No, I'm just opposed.
Okay, all right. So let's do a roll call on the motion to recommend the town to support the story walk between the Commonwealth Avenue and Neshoba Brook, with appropriate thinking about the safety issues. And so we'll do a roll call on that. Adrian?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Dorcas?
No,
John?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
And Nat Welch votes aye as well. The motion passes 5-1. And thank you all for participating. Marcia, I assume Deborah can contact you? Okay,
Yes. That was-
good. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah. Let's see, we had, Stephen, you had another topic you'd like to bring up, and Deborah Edelman has her hand up again. But Steve, you start first.
All right, just a quick question, just so I understand as far as the submission of the 75% plan goes, was that was submitted as part of the notice of intent from the town. Was that, it
She shook
wasn't?
her head.
They're two separate things. The 75% design is what was submitted to Mass DOT for review with Sudbury's section. The notice of intent is simply for the wetlands to renew our order of conditions relative to the rail trail as it passes through the 100-foot buffer to White Pond.
Okay, but the notice of intent included the plans as they currently
That is
exist.
correct. That is
right?
correct.
So the DOT didn't have to sign off on it for it to
No,
be
they did
submitted.
not.
Okay, right. That's what I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
And I'm assuming, Marcia, that as soon as you hear something from the town, from DOT, you let the committee know, and then we need to let folks know that we have some determination, or what's the way that it happens?
Well, I'll reach out to my counterpart in Sudbury and as well as to the project manager for Mass DOT to see if there is any kind of estimated timeframe, and then I can report back to you at the next in my next agenda memo.
Okay. And then once they go through all their process, you receive some letter from them with their stage.
Not necessarily. All of the comments go into Mass DOT, then they're funneled back to the design consultants who have to answer all of the comments.
Okay.
Either by amending the plan, adding information, or modifying something. So.
Okay. So I guess the reason I'm asking the question is to understand, because I haven't seen this process before, just in my role.
Yeah.
Are there places where you can imagine some of the folks who've raised questions will want to know where things are? And is there a way that we keep interested parties in the loop, or do we just kind of wait till it gets through the whole thing and then we get some official document back from MassDOT?
You're making it far more complicated
Okay,
than it
But
is.
see, I don't know
But,
this, so that I'm just.
Usually, the MassDOT comments go to the designers. They answer everything as they prepare their 100% design. So if I think this group and the information that we've provided to Mass DOT about the importance of the fencing along White Pond and along the rail trail, as well as all of the documentation that was submitted for your April 22nd meeting. We've made Mass DOT aware of that. And I believe our designer has shared that with Mass DOT as well. We've provided links to Eamon. He is part of, the distribution of the agendas and the agenda memos. So I would expect that if there are any red flags, that I would hear about it sooner and can bring it back to this group for further conversation.
Okay. I think that's what I think that's what I was asking, was if there are problems that will crop up that might cause people concern.
I would rather bring it back to you sooner rather than later.
Good. Okay, perfect. I think that would be what our role is to hear that and then make sure people have a chance to respond. Okay, thank you. Thank you for walking me through that. I'm sorry I'm thick. Having not done this before.
No worries.
Any other public comments, questions, etc.? Yes, Terry Ackerman.
Okay, yes, I have 2 comments and 2 questions, but I'll be quick. Thank you to the whole committee for being proactive about the e-bikes. I think that's an important issue. It's great. And thank you especially to Richard and everybody for your patience as the Transportation Advisory Committee considers Junction Park and the reformatory branch. We feel that's a proper place to take an overall view, to look at all the stakeholders, and then the select board will take up those issues. So I know it's not moving quickly, but it's moving. So thanks for your patience. And my 2 questions are on the story walk. Did you say that's going to come to the select board for approval? Or is that something that is done administratively?
Well, the last time with the Go Outdoors program, that was submitted to the select board, I thought. I might be misremembering, but
I'm not sure it was. That's why I'm confused.
The recommendation came from the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee, and it either went to the town manager or to the select board. It may have gone just to the town manager, but it had the full support of the advisory committee, as well as I think the Natural Resources Commission. So I will look back and make sure that I'm following the right protocol here.
Okay, I'm fine either way. Just trying to make sure I don't drop the ball on something. Okay, and finally, Nat, you said you're looking for new members. I know there were some questions about terms and everything, whether you got all of that straightened out with the town clerk, and how many members are you looking for?
We have not gotten it straightened out with the town clerk yet. I haven't heard back. They may have straightened it out, but they haven't answered my question. And I used Adrian's term as the exemplar, since she was appointed in November,
right,
but would be terminated in, I guess, May of 2023. But no, that's I'm still tracking that, and we have some time before the next person falls off the list. And we'd like to have, we have 9 slots that we're assigned, or that are in our charge. I think we'd like to have at least 6 or 7 folks, so that we don't have to worry about the quorum issue, unless we have Carol appointed as a special quorum filler by the select board. But
okay, so with Carol coming off, how many people are you looking for?
2 more.
2 more.
Yeah. Well, 4 more to make it to 9. Yes.
Okay.
Marcia, thank you for the hand signal, but at a minimum 2, but we'd like to get to our full complement.
Thank you.
Yeah. Richard, co-chair, do you have a comment? Okay. 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 Thank you. Any other public questions or comments? Jim Kutra.
Yes, it would be great if somehow that whole White Pond area had some kind of comment from the town as to when the town beach would be open and what kind of direction could be placed there as to where to go to legally access the pond. And I do know that some people have parked over at Willard. I don't know what Willard's position is for weekends. And also the town parking lot at White Pond at the town swim beach per se might be something that could be somehow broadcast or communicated.
Sounds like something that you might want to take up with the select board.
Okay.
I think we're on the other, I mean, we have our little right of way that we're trying to manage appropriately. But I think it's a great question to bring to the select board.
Or check with the recreation department. That is their responsibility and purview.
Thank you, Marcia. Okay, with that, can I have Greg Mueller raised his hand.
I'd just like to say that on behalf of the Old Picker Trust 2, Old Picker Farm Trust 2, that we are also trying to manage our little piece of right of way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I get with that, can I get a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. A roll call. Adrian,
Aye.
to close the meeting, that is. Richard,
Aye.
Dorcas,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
and Nat, I also to end this meeting. This session of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee is over as of 8:33 p.m. Thank you all for attending and for your help. And Dorcas, thank you especially for reaching in from Connecticut. So have a safe trip home.
Thanks.
Okay, good night, everyone.